The workshop agenda meeting is called to order at 3:30. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Douther. Commissioner Hodges.
Here.
Commissioner Oakley.
Here.
Vice Mayor Weinstein.
Here.
Mayor Black.
Present. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Before I open to the public, I would like to read into, or I would like our city clerk to read into the minutes. Thank you. A letter from the owner of Colette's on Madeira Way.
Madam Mayor, if I may, specific to that letter, we plan on bringing that item to the board as a staff report at your September 4th meeting. Because the Parks and Recreation Director is unable to be in attendance today because he's out at a conference, he has been the one spearheading and involved in the Madeira Beach market, and so we thought it was only appropriate that he be in attendance when this item is discussed. So it will actually be on the agenda for discussions at your September 4th regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners as a staff report.
All right, but I understood that it was not going to be on this agenda, but she specifically asked that it be read into the record during this meeting.
That's fine.
Okay. And she's aware of that as well.
The email is from Colette's Fashions and Swimwear, located 15033 Madeira Way, Madeira Beach, Florida 33708. Let me see who it is. Nicolette Schulten, I think it is. I would like, okay, dear Jonathan Evans and the Commissioners, I am sending you this letter to give you a brief history of what it is like to own a business on Madeira Way. I am not necessarily talking about my business, Colette's Fashions, because we have been here on Madeira Way since 1980, so 38 years. We only survived the recession because of our kind landlord who lowered the rent. The rent has now increased to market value, which is fair considering I am not part of the development. The shop was opened by my mother, who passed away 6 years ago, and I took over. When I succeeded my mother, Madeira Way had the following businesses. I am going in order from the northeast side to the southeast side, and then from the northwest side to the southwest side, 6 years ago. Northeast, post office, dry cleaners, 30 plus years, silk flower shop, Colette's, 32 years, vacant, a salon, Madeira, 20 years, convenience store. Now southwest, Brown Boxer, then 4 vacant businesses, Darlene's Salon, rental office, Dora Lynn Books, not sure, and vacant. And very vacant had been for 11 years, jewelry shop, 32 plus years, Orr House, Subway, 20 plus years. Now I would like to show you how many times these stores have turned over in the last 6 years. Post office, same. Dry cleaners, 30 plus years, now gone. Silk flower shop became a store for spices and oils, now a dive shop. Colette's, 32 years, still here, expanded after market came into half shop next door, now reduced the size because of profit fears without market. Vacant, full shop Mad Teas, half shop Mad Teas, now vacant. A salon Madeira, 20 years. Convenience store, now dive bar. Now southwest, Brown Boxer, vacant. Ladybug and Turtle store, vacant. Cell phone protection store, vacant. Dizzy Lizzy, now Harmony Sisters, vacant. Madeira Beach Umprum Yoga Studio, vacant. Painted Cottage, vacant. Half Something Beachy, half Mad Beach Pickers. Something Beachy is gone. Mad Beach Pickers survives, but rumor has it she is closing down. Darlene Salon, vacant. Hannah's Harmony, Spig Island, rental office, Dora Lynn Books, not sure, then the Daily Brew, Nirvana, Little Europe, vacant. Purple Haze, Madeira Way Juicery, took on almost 1 year to open. Very vacant had been for 11 years, sat for another 5 years. 1 year ago, Sinbad's Treasure Chest, jewelry shop, upholstery shop, Saltwater Hippie. Orr House, Subway, Fravatas. So in summary, when I first came on to the street, there were 13 businesses open out of 20 storefronts available. Slowly, some of the vacant shops were rented out within a year. During these 6 years, we had 20 storefronts rented out of all at once while we had the market. In the last 6 years, a total of 16 businesses have left, 3 of which has been here longer than 20 years, 1 longer than 5 years. The other 12 businesses survived less than 5 years. What does that say for this retail area? 18 businesses out of 20. That is 90% of the business is gone. Many times between businesses, the storefronts remain vacant. This means the owners of the buildings receive no rent, no income. Improvements to their buildings are less likely to happen. So Madeira Way begins to look less appealing, which in turn takes away customers, which in turn, and so on. After I had the shop for about 2 years, the businesses on Madeira Way were approached about having a morning market. This market has been the best publicity for this street and the businesses. Many of the new small businesses were able to stay open because of the market. Better yet were the Thanksgiving and Mother's Day craft markets, 39-year record gross sales for those markets. The morning market brought people to the area where they discovered out little stores, and as for many businesses, sales increased on the Wednesday alone by 40%. I am giving you imaginary numbers, but suppose on a regular Wednesday I grossed $1,000 and now it has become $1,400 per week. That gives me an extra $1,600 per month, not to mention the extra money that came in during the week because of the publicity from the market. I had an opportunity to expand, and because of the market, I took it. The extra income paid the rent and extra inventory. This year, because of subleased with the T-shirt shop, and he left. I had the opportunity to expand again, remain the same, or decrease my square footage without breaking my lease. I heard the market would be canceled, so I chose to decrease my square footage. Think about it. I now have to decrease an expansion because I know I will probably lose that 40% revenue on Wednesdays. I am not in business, nor is anyone else, with the intention not to grow and be successful. For a little while, the city paid attention to Madeira Way, did something to promote us, and in time, the businesses that came in were able to survive a bit longer than usual. From the agenda setting meeting on August the 20th, it was mentioned the Madeira Way morning market would be put on the agenda. I looked at the agenda of both the special and workshop meetings and see it is not there. The meetings begin at 2 o'clock, which is bad for me because it is during business hours. I will try to make it, but should I not be able to come, I would like this letter to be read by the city manager wherever during the meeting deemed appropriate. Nicolette Schulten.
Thank you. And just for the record, for the people watching and in the audience, I believe that the market left on their own because they wanted to go to a larger space. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, in our conversations with the market representatives, there was a desire for them to continue to utilize the market in its existing location. The concern that was raised by staff and law enforcement and public safety personnel is the closure of Madeira Way and what it does to traffic congestion. Also, representatives from FDOT had some concerns about the market still operating in that space. Now, I know that prior to my arrival, there was conversations that occurred with the market representatives, and we allowed for it to continue on a little bit longer. But if I'm not mistaken, it was the desire of the board to look at restricting the closure of that. And that, again, that was prior to my arrival. But in my conversations with staff and representatives from FDOT, they encouraged us to look at relocating the market. We have met with representatives from the business association or the merchants associations, and even proffered an alternative solution whereby we would close the parking lot here at City Hall to allow to operate the market here and enter into a discussion and arrangement with Winn-Dixie to utilize their parking space for overflow But unfortunately, the business community would prefer for it to be down there because of relocating some inventory and not being able to have people walk through their stores, et cetera. So that's, in a nutshell, the situation with Madeira Way and the market. And staff is still in favor of some alternative location, but we do have some public safety concerns that we will bring to light at the September 4th meeting with the board.
All right, so we'll follow up on the 4th. Thanks.
Yes. And that's consistent with the request to allow for the meeting to be held in later on in the evening to allow for members of the business community to be present. So that was some of the intent by moving it to a regular meeting as a staff report.
Okay, very good. All right, the floor is now open for public comment, and this is for anything that is not on the agenda. If you still wish to speak on something on the agenda, you'll be given an opportunity at that time when we get to it. Yes, go ahead. I can't hear you.
Is this for commenting on the Colette letter?
Yes, you can comment on that now. Okay.
Good, it's still working, and I'm still Reese Norrin on 363 Medallion Boulevard, your closest neighbor. Let me refresh your memories. What really brought this to a head was when the new bar decided to have a private party on the Madeira Way, and they closed the street. Now, those of us that are used to seeing the street closed for the market, yeah, it's unhandy and you have to maneuver around, but we're used to that. What they did is they charged citizens to walk on the sidewalk. For their event closed off the street and the sidewalk to the citizens. Now we, that is the governing body, gave them permission to do that, which was a mistake on the part of whoever did that. And I think the reason he did that is because he just didn't know any better and thought that that was the way he could do it. But that is what raised most people's ire that I talked to. Not the fact that we closed it off for use, which we normally do, but the fact that you had to pay as a citizen because they were having a private party. I have no problem with having them close off for the market or even their private party, but I have a great problem if I have to pay to walk on my sidewalk because somebody's having a private party. To me, that was the most, that was really what brought it to a head. I don't think anybody objected more than, oh, that's a pain in the whatever. But thank you. See, I'm getting shorter.
Yes.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore Drive, Madeira Beach. Pretty much agree with what Speedy had to say there. Reese Noreen, sorry. This kind of goes back to what I've talked about a little bit about the city of Madeira Beach. We don't have anything that says, come to Madeira Beach, come see what we're doing, come to our events, come enjoy our beaches, come enjoy the seafood festival, come enjoy Old Salts, come enjoy the market. When businesses leave, that hurts our city, so we lose revenue. So we need to encourage people to come here, whether it's the markets, whether it's the events we have in this park, at John's Pass. And one of those things that could really help out, I think, and I've been thinking this a long time, is to have, when you come over the bridge, is to have a billboard, I don't know, 10 by 8 or something like that, that has colors on it, you know, the digital, it says, this week, Wednesday market, It's located at such and such. The softball games are here, this date. The seafood fest is coming up here. The volleyball tournament's on the beach. It's coming here. It's on this date. Come and enjoy us, have fun. All that stuff brings business to the city. And we need to advertise ourselves. It seems like everything that we do here, it says, you know, I really don't want anybody to come here. I don't want to advertise that it's a good place to be. You know, I think we need to advertise our city as a place to come and enjoy yourself. And by doing that, you support the businesses that help this community. We talk about buying local and what have you. If those businesses are doing well, their prices will drop, and buying local becomes even easier to do than going someplace else, like on the other side of the bridge. So we need to keep that in mind. We need to sell Madera Beach as a great place to come and enjoy. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Public comment is now closed. All right, the next item on the agenda then is the 911 Memorial update.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, good afternoon. I'm happy to bring you this update with the anniversary of the 9/11 quickly approaching. Staff would like to bring you up to date with where we are on the 9/11 Memorial. Every year, the Public Works, right about this time of year, schedules a pressure washing and painting of the memorial with the fire department. Happy to report this afternoon that that pressure washing got done today. So we're a little ahead of schedule. The annual cleaning, like I said, will be Thursday and Friday. Within the last year, Public Works and the wonderful committee of volunteers have installed the Heroes Garden. I'd like to say Public Works helped, but we weren't able to outwork Mr. Critelli, and it was done by the time we got there. With that being said, we also were able to install a water line from the street to the sign and the garden, along with a soaker hose to keep the plants alive. We designed a 9/11 brochure. Actually, the committee designed a 9/11 brochure that explains the memorial, photographed by Mike Ramos and designed by Ken Donofrio. Did I get that right? Outstanding. Along with that, we replaced and installed new light fixtures on the flight panels, if you've been over to look at that. Replaced the lights on the Wall of Life. We installed ventilation into the back of the building, which really helped us. And have also had the plaque designed and completed in Italy, thank you, Mr. Critelli, to explain the meaning of the graph and in the Heroes Garden, and plan to mount the plaque before the ceremony. A guest registration book has been placed at the memorial, and it's seen a lot of traffic. It's really neat to see people from all over the world. The committee of volunteers, and I stress volunteers, consists of Dee Lay, Guy Critelli, Steve Kochek, and John and Susan Haywood. Quickly, I'd like to run through some of the most recent donations we've had. $1,200 Forging of Heroes Garden plaque. That was a friend of Guy Critelli's that did that for us. Thank you again, sir. We appreciate that. $1,000 for the plants, and the design and labor to install those plants was done by All Seasons Landscaping. Lowe's chipped in with $100 for plants. The Veterans Boat Parade has contributed $200 to the memorial. Ken Donofrio, time and effort to produce these brochures, it takes a lot. We appreciate that. I know doing stuff for the marina, other stuff that we have in the city, that takes a considerable amount of time. And Mike Ramos for getting all the photograph work done that we have in the brochure now. It really looks good if you haven't seen it. This was strictly informational item for the board. I would like to introduce Dee and the committee members to please come up, and they also have an activity report that she would like to share with you. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you know, we have a 9/11 volunteer. We have 4 people. I'm Dee Lay. My husband was Dewey Lay. He was on the build committee. Susan Haywood, she's not here today. She has children. And her father was Ken Margrave. He was on the build committee. And Ken Margrave was battalion chief 9/11 at the 9/11, retired. He was retired before 9/11, but he was battalion chief at in New York. Guy Cortelli was on build committee, so basically there's 4 of us. And we couldn't do anything without Ken. Ken is our go-to idea man. Ken Donofrio's lived in Madeira Beach forever. How many years? So many. And he's a Madeira Beach citizen, lives 2 doors up from me. But anyway, I think a month or so ago, I sent everybody an activity report. I hope you read that or saw that. So I won't go over that again, because that was until the end of June. But since the end of June, we have been very busy. Dave outlined the plaque. Thank you, Guy. And the 4 lamps. And Debbie Laramie, thank you very much for freshening up. I just said it needed to be freshened up. She put new plants in, new fertilizer, new, well, anyway, it looks great. She trimmed it a lot. And I want to say thank you, Megan and Debbie. Try to come to our usually at our meetings if they can. So, in addition to that, I sent, I think 9 or 10 letters inviting politicians to our 9/11 this year, Day of Remembrance. I was hoping, I don't know Mr. Presser, but I'm hoping he can do that kind of thing from now on. It went to Bill Arrakis, Christ, Rowson, Brandeis, Peters, Long, Justice, and Lerner. And as of a couple of weeks ago, Charlie Justice, County Commissioner, has accepted he will be there. I'm still waiting for a couple of them to come. Also, from the very, very beginning, we have one of our goals, our missions, is to have student participation, that the younger generation knows what happened that day. I spent a couple of months talking to Mr. Atik at Madeira Beach, and it was long involved. But anyway, right now, I found a teacher from Madeira, Pinellas County Schools, Linda Pearson. We will be participating in the Day of Remembrance, Faces of September 11th. It's a 5-minute thing, and 2 high school students and 4 grade school students from Madeira Beach. It will be very short. I'm all for short because it's so freaking hot that day. But it is a short history, very, very short history of what happened that day. And then we have 5 faces and 8x10s that each student will come up and announce that person, what flight they were on, and what it crashed into. So it's a real face. We have names, but we also have faces. And it's unbelievable when you think of who died that day. Oh, my guest registration book. It's hard to keep up with that, but because it's pulled off, yanked off, or whatever. But let's see, I started in May, June, July, August. There were 107. Not everybody signs that thing, but there were 107 entries, May, June, July, and the 16th of August. I don't know if you want to go all through who comes, but they're from all over. Netherlands, Yorkshire, England, Livonia, Michigan, Cairo, New York, Long Island, Anderson, Indiana, Niagara Falls, all over the place. So they do come, and when I go there, I go about once a week the book is always something they have to do done with it. But there's always somebody who come to look at that. And the last time I looked at the book was just a couple days ago, and a woman said how beautiful it was. They always mention what a great memorial in it. And this lady was saying, I cried and cried and cried because the memorial was so touching to her. I have to say, John and Susan Haywood have been very faithful to care. They particularly care for the weeds, cleaning up the Heroes Garden. And for some time, and this is the last thing I have, for some time we have been considering 9/11 memorial T-shirts, primarily for promotion, but also some fundraising. Guy Critelli and his wife, Grace, have agreed to head up this project. Ken Donofrio, our main go-to man, has designed a shirt. If you'd be interested, he brought it today. So he has a customer contact that it is almost unbelievable. These shirts are $6 for us. And we talked to the city manager this morning, and he has found a way for us to make that happen. And I think it's going to happen by Day of Remembrance. And thank you so much for being so supportive of us. It was a pleasure talking to you. So again, if you want to listen to how you purchase these things and how you can get it done, Ken will do it. But also, well, if you're interested in how it's purchased or not, would you like to listen to Ken? Sure. And then when we're done, thank you for your attention. When Ken got this, I said, Ken, this can't be true. This is too good to be true. Have you vetted them? Ken says, you insult me. Oh, of course I vetted them.
She
but
sent
this,
out an email saying, like, have you vetted these people?
It can't be true. But anyway, thank you for your attention. With this presentation, we're finished.
And I just have a couple updates on the production and the pricing and stuff. In the meeting this morning with City Manager Evans, thank you again for your time today and your support. He suggested that some of the officials, other than the adults, wear polos with an embroidered logo, just the logo from the front on their shirt, and maybe never forget on the sleeve. So 2 small embroideries, and we did find out today that they can have those ready by the event. We just need to know how many, and I don't know the price on that yet, but they did say they could have it. He also said they could have our first order of 72 shirts, which, by the way, we're going to be trying to sell at the Seafood Festival. We're not going to try to sell them at the actual service. That's kind of tacky. So we're planning on maybe the guy is going to head up selling them at the Seafood Festival and other events. But they can have those ready by the service as well, which I said, you don't have to do that. I'm trying not to make these guys do too much, but it's just really an incredible thing. Even after our initial run where these people can buy them at the Seafood Festival or at any live event, there's going to be a web page where they can actually go online and buy them one at a time. They handle the drop shipping, okay, for $6.75 is what they charge us. So then they charge the person the tax and the shipping, and then they send us a check. Right now we're working it out with Mr. Evans to find out who that check is going to go to and do the traffic on all that. So, yeah, and we're thinking about selling the shirts for $20, somewhere between $15 and $20. Yeah, donations. At which time, again, even on the live sales, we'll have some type of contact at the city to bring the money to. So we're just going to keep bringing you guys money. So you can help us preserve and educate and keep that memorial in good shape. But thank you.
I want to thank you, the city, the city manager, commissioner, and mayor, and thank you very much, Mr. David Marcigano, for the beautiful presentation, and to all the city of Madeira Beach that support us, and also commissioner and mayor together. We thank you for our heart.
Thank you very much, y'all. We certainly appreciate it. And speaking for Megan and Debbie, they're the true rock stars of that Public Works group over there. They've been great. So thank you very much. And that's all I have with as far as the update goes.
Well, thank you so much for the update, and I really appreciate all the hard work from Dee Lay and Guy Catelli, Steve Kochek, and John and Susan Hayward. I don't know them, but and Ken. Thank you so much for everything you do for our city. Public comments now open on this item. Public comments closed. Next item, proposed public-private agreement for development of John's Pass Resort.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. The purpose in putting this on your workshop agenda is so that we can begin to discuss whether the Commission is interested in becoming involved in the development of a project in John's Pass Village. You've been told individually, I know you've had a chance to look at what was proposed in a concept form, but we do have an application that's been submitted for a PD, a zoning change, and the city really can't process that without knowing whether the city is involved or not, because it involves city property. The right-of-way that is known as Fisherman's Alley runs right through the proposed project. So the purpose of bringing this up today is to get you to discuss thoughts and concerns that you would have about the city's involvement in the project, what type of involvement it should be, and perhaps make a referral, if you are interested, to the city attorney to come back and let you know what kind of instrument would need to be created to provide for that I don't know if it would be a partnership, but that kind of arrangement of shared ownership and value in the development. And I know that Jack is here, Jack Bozak is here to make presentation to show you more detail about the project itself. But at this point, the intent is to get some kind of direction as regards to the city's involvement in the project, just at a base level.
Any discussion?
I'm all for it. I've seen the plans. We all had our separate appointments with Jack at one point, and I think it's a great idea. Of course, reading the material here also, you said that there'd be like one floor of parking for the city, which would bring a revenue of about $90,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I'd like I'll let us do a quick presentation.
Okay, that'd be great.
How this works, but it's, Jack Bozak, I'm the architect and represent the owners of the property. We haven't gotten to the final determination on the amount of dollars per month, per week, because we just finalized some of the things about the plans. As you'll remember, when I met with y'all earlier, we were talking about going to 8 stories, and after a lot of evaluation of both the difference revenue-wise and the difference cost-wise and impact of, we did get, I know that there were 2 of you had a particularly concerned, a lot more concerned, or a few of you had concern about the height.
Can you put the mic up to your mic?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I know that there was some concern about the height going to 8 stories, and after we went through and did the traffic study or at least went through with the parking people, the impact of that and what the positives and the negatives were, it seemed like, especially with the thought process that some of you had about really not liking to go to 8 stories, we looked at it closely and decided that it was better just to stay with the 6-story representation that we had put together. And basically, the way the project is made up, and I'll show you these on the board a little bit shortly. Essentially, what it would be a joint use agreement. It would not be an easement. It would not be any commitment along those lines. The joint use agreement, what we did is we haven't asked to come in and build on the property, on the easement or the right-of-way, anything that was construction that we would be making use of. In other words, we kept the drive lane clear all 3 stories up as far as it's only a connection between the 2 parcels. It's not actually where we're building, hotel rooms over it, or we're building any of the other amenities over it. So we tried to keep it clear, so it was really truly just a joint use agreement as to the alley. We dropped it back to the 6 stories that we originally discussed, and 78 units, which is within the density. It's a couple units short of the density maximum. And we have gone to quite an extent to try and make the thing as pliable as possible and as viable as possible as far as the commission is concerned. I can show you, I'd kind of like to show you one thing about it while we're talking about that.
Pardon me, Jack, can I
Yes.
just ask, we're totally out of this plan, right? This first one that you've shown is nothing, right?
Is that the 8-story one?
This is, yeah.
Oh, that's out. It's, yeah, it is. We dropped it back down to 2 stories to where we were before, which is basically 3 stories of parking and 3 levels of hotel suites. Now, when I talk about the joint use agreement, I wanted to show you the impact of how this works on the site, so you understood that when I say we're not building rooms or the proposed water park or any of that over the easement, the reason it's just a joint use of access, we would leave the height of the garage, the first level, high enough that trucks could pass through, the garbage collection, city trucks, maintenance trucks, anything like that. We kept it up at, I believe it's 14 feet. So it's clearance that works within the city's regulations as far as trying to maintain, not block the use of the alley by city maintenance or anything like that. Now, I wanted to show you, starting with the first level. In meetings with staff, we also had discussed trying to get a little more commercial use along, right along Boardwalk Place. And the reason was that right now it's kind of dead. It's the back door to all the things.
Can you talk into the mic so
Okay, sorry.
people at home can hear?
I'm sorry, all right. Right now it's the back door to all of the Boardwalk properties across the street, which is over here. Now, what we've done is, this is the alley that comes through. And you can see we haven't put any parking in there. We did the parking to both sides. In discussions with staff, with Linda and the city manager, there was a concern that we maybe put some retail along that streetscape, because it's a nice wide sidewalk. I was going to walk down your way to it. So what you can see is we kept it clear, and I'll show you on the other 2 also, all 3 stories up. It's nothing but a connection between the 2 parcels. In other words, I didn't put, hotel rooms over it. I didn't put the pool deck or, the pool area, anything over that. So it is truly just a joint use agreement. We get to use it to transport across, and it allows us to do a more efficient parking plan than what we could do if we had to build the 2 parcels separately, in which case we'd have a parking lot on one and we'd have probably the hotel on the other. As I said, we put a strip of commercial retail with doors opening out to a wide sidewalk. And you can kind of see the awnings that are on the front of it down low. It's kind of behind those trees that we ran along the landscaping along here, and along here. So we did put an element of retail in there that would create a little bit more activity on the street other than the back of the shops that are on the boardwalk. Furthermore, what we did is the access to the hotel itself. The main lobby is over on this side. These parcels that you see on these 3 corners are not a part of the property. We made some accommodations that if down the road one of these were to join in, we would be able to tie it in and do even parking for it. So anyway, that's more or less what we have is we've got 297 parking spaces. So the idea is that it's, aside from an income sharing, we would have, the city would have an ability to to have really a first-class addition to the attraction of John's Pass. John's Pass, you know, has always been celebrated as one of the outside of the big guys, one of the top attractions participation-wise, the number of people that come in to walk the boardwalk at John's Pass and spend their day walking around the village. And I think that the thing that's always been lacking has been a hotel element. Everybody's talked about it for a lot of years, and we're now at a point where I think we can get this, I know we can get this done. The parcels have all been assembled, the plans are put together, and per our discussions we had previously, I think at the 6-story level, I think it's a very pleasant approach to this. The water park would be on this side, which is the boardwalk side. We would control the element of timing and when it would be open to avoid issues with the neighborhood. Back on this side, the hotel rooms would essentially block a lot of the light and traffic from the area where the pool deck is and the water park would be. Let me show you, just so you can see the continuity of how the alley interacts with the floors above this. When you go to the upper floors, essentially what you have is the alley still stays clear all the way through. We have not built, the rooms are back here, nothing over the alley. The elevators, the entry, all that, and the rooms are over, the suites are over on this side. Water park over here. Low scale water park, we're in the process right now with the consultants of putting a little more detailed plan together on it. And this then leaves us the typical parking floor that totals up 297 spaces. Now, we have a few other spaces potentially available, but they're not, we didn't include them in the plan because they weren't something we could work out right away and as we develop this. The idea really is basically to try and do an effective design by letting the two parcels work together. There are other examples of easements and of right-of-way dedications, so to speak, within Madeira Beach. I understand that that option is really not available readily right now, and we're ready to proceed with this thing if we can get everything and, you know, through the approval process, and if the commission agrees that this is a viable and you know, a very fortunate potential to solve the parking problem and to bring a new element of hotel suites into John's Pass. So, but I did want you to see that we didn't just do that on the ground floor. We kept that element above the alley free of any commercial venture or interest to us. It's just strictly the access point that ties the parking garages and the upper floor together.
Where will the staging be for the construction?
The staging, well, what we're trying to do on this is we're talking about staging it by essentially, we're going to have to use a part of the area back in here and do this a section at a time coming across. But we're going to mainly you know, at one point we're going to have to make use of part of the alley, the Fisherman's Alley, and we plan on working our way this way down there. We'll have to use it. The only way you can do this is with a tower crane. You can't do it with truck crane. So it's going to have to be where we pick a spot like, you know, the 20, 30 feet we have in these spaces and stage a tower crane and just make the best of it. It's, you know, no matter what you do, if you were building single family homes here, it'd be tough as tight as things are in that area. So that's kind of where we are on this, and we are at a stage where we were, after some discussion with staff, we were preparing a document that we would present to the commission and to the city manager and the city attorney for their review, to start the review process on just how this would work. We are working out all the economic details. We have 297 spaces. I don't remember, Linda, exactly. I think it's like about a little more than half of them are required parking for the hotel, for the retail, you know, for all that, and we put parking in for the water park. And what we would do is, the way the property is dealt with right now, it's a national parking lot management company. So there's no issue about, you know, having to worry about taking care of meters, about, you know, it's a straight lease that they pay a check at the first of each month, whether it's good weather, bad weather, a lot of parking. So that's what we are working on putting in place. It would negate the need for the city or ourselves to have people emptying meters and having to deal with parking meters. It would give us central control over it, where we would all have control of seeing, we get a check no matter what the outcome was income-wise. So, and it's the way it works out, it's really a pretty decent arrangement. We will have specific numbers on that that'll come in with the agreement when we present it to you, and give you an example of what it will generate each month and annually. So that's kind of the overall. I'm here to answer any other questions you can have on this. We would like to begin the process of going to the planning board. As Linda said, we have put the application in, and we are fine-tuning some of the points with the staff, and I feel like we could potentially, if we get to the commission, the planning commission on next month, we will then start the process of evaluating what we're presenting to you and giving you the opportunity to get this thing a full understanding of what we're doing and give the public a full understanding. That's it, unless...
I have a question. For the neighborhood meeting, will you be limiting that to within 200 feet, or will you include the whole city?
We are actually doing it within 200 feet. We're doing it right. There's a big room below Scully's that is like a little restaurant right now, and we're emptying that room. And we did send the letters out within the specified time period, and we will be clearing that room out and setting up seating in there. So
I think the 200 feet's a little short-sighted,
agree.
making the fact that you have all those people that live down at the end of 129th, which is way out of that 200-foot range, but this is going to affect them
It's going to affect the whole
dramatically.
city, actually.
Actually, it is going to affect the whole city,
mean,
but that Pelican Lane, 130, is it 131st, right there at Madeira Bay?
yeah, it's 131st at Madeira Bay.
131st, that whole street back in there, all those people are going to be affected, and the 200 feet is not going to cover it.
Well, I mean, we just went by what we were, what was in the code. So I'm not like we're trying to shortchange it.
No, I totally understand
And I
that,
think
but
if there's a way that we can maybe advertise it then beforehand and invite people, we'd be
Yeah.
glad to do that.
The city manager can do
A
that.
little more sweeping thing.
That is correct, and Madam Mayor, it is a public meeting, so any member of the public is able to be in attendance. It's not restricted to the folks that live within that 200 feet zone. So certainly, we can put out information consistent with the board's desires to inform folks about a community meeting. But the developer went with the intent and the language that's specified in the code, but from the staff standpoint and speaking with Director Portel, we believe that it needs to be communicated to the entire community that this meeting is effectively occurring. So that is something that we were going to do from the staff side.
I have some questions.
go ahead.
I have some questions. Were you through?
Go ahead.
I want to make it, I guess, clearer, for you to make it clear to me. The reason, because we've not really had a board meeting on it or anything, but the reason that you're really having to come is not just because that's a PD, but because you are asking us, or are you, to vacate the alleyway.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We are, in meetings with the staff, we decided that there was no need to vacate the alley because we're improving the alley and bringing it up to current standards. There is really not very limited, but there is our city utilities in there. We are going to upgrade the outfall to the bay. We have to repair that, and that was will be part of our agreement, which is a pretty expensive thing to do. We've got to replace that pipe that goes out from that area to the bay. And the idea was that we would stay away. We would really, it's more of a joint use because we're not inhibiting any way the use of the alley below, and we're improving the alley below. And our effort was to try to get this thing to a point where it was not an easement vacation, was not anything like that. It was simply a joint use agreement where the city still had full use of it, and the city, it was still a public alley. There are shops along that alley that use it in the back. You'll notice down the south end of the alley. Waltz is down the other end. Waltz, has a little different situation in that they don't face the alley, but they do back up to it. But we tried to take everything into consideration, and we just We felt like this really is not a vacation because we're not asking for control of the alley. We're not asking for it for density. We're not asking for it for anything but the right to traverse across it, as the bridge does at John's, the Hubbard property. There's that footbridge that comes across. Then down the end of the street is the walkway where Bubba Gump's is. All that traverses the alley. And then the minor also encroachment is the elevator tower down at Florida, the winery, Florida Winery. So we were trying to do something that was just a very simple thing. You know, we will share some revenue with the city on this. It'll be a source of income as well, outside of the normal purview of taxes and sales tax and all that. And it'll strengthen the Johns Pass with an updated hotel, which it sorely needs. You know, most of the communities on the beach don't have very much in the way of new hotels. And we felt like this has been an intent for this site, at least in a lot of people's minds, for a long time. It limits the use to an area that's already right in the middle of a lot of activity, and would give people a place to stay. We're right in the middle of Johns Pass, families, you know, staying for a week or 2 weeks.
Right.
So that was kind of the idea, was no, this is not an easement. We're not asking to have ownership of the easement. We're not asking to vacate it. We're just asking that we are able to pass over it to make our parking more efficient in this, and so people don't have to go down from one side to park, come over and go up the other side. They still then would be traversing the alley, but they would be then traversing it at ground level, which is a little more intrusive.
Okay. I have a couple more questions, too. On the information that you had given us, Jack, you had indicated in one spot that there were going to be 78 rooms, and then you said there were going to be 72 rooms, and then you came up with 78 guest suites. So really, what are you, I'm looking at all these different pieces of paper that I've got kind of ticked here, okay? So what are you really talking about?
It is 78, and all the presentations that have been turned in are 78 rooms. We originally were going to...
rooms or guest suites?
Guest suites. Yeah, they're suites. They're very similar to a lot of the other hotels.
2 bedroom, 2 bath?
They're 1 bedroom den, essentially 2 bath, small. They're within the city's code of 850 square feet. They're less. It's basically orientated towards a family. And the water park also, I don't know whether you've heard about the success of the limited water park they have up in Indian Rocks Beach at the Holiday Inn up there, but that thing's been just crazy. The numbers on those are...
Well, I noticed that you did say before, and I thought it was pretty interesting, because you made the comment that as tight as things are there, and of course that is definitely my concerns, okay? As tight as things are in Johns Pass, that area, because you know where I am, and at first when you talked about it, I was certainly very... I was excited about anything going in there, quite frankly, because the current owners have had it, for 10 years now, and it's been nothing but a blighted area. You know, they've not followed, parking codes. They've not followed anything. They've done whatever the heck they wanted to for 10 years. So I thought, wow, this is really cool. But yes, I have to say, in due respect to all that I'm not a proponent at all, I guess, of any kind of a joint. I mean, that's just my feeling. I don't like any kind of a joint thing where the city doesn't have control. I've seen. I know probably in some areas it might have been very successful, but at my thing right now, I think that the first, even in light of the 110-392 page that the city has prepared, I think that prior to any kind of a signing of any agreement or even directing the city attorney to do it, I would certainly like to see a community meeting that certainly enables the population that this is going to affect, which is most of Madeira Beach, to be able to come and see it. That's my feelings.
Well, I think the neighborhood meeting and whatever other meetings we'll have the public hearings here. But let me be clear. Right now, any development of those 2 parcels would have to traverse the alley. And that's just a given. I mean, everybody has use of the alley. We are not taking that right away from anybody. We are leaving the alley exactly as it is in the city's hands. It's still owned by the people. And rather than have all this traffic traversing at the ground level, which would really bury that 16-foot alley, we widened it to a full drive width, wherever our property is, of 24 feet, which is a full drive lane.
understand that.
And then we're paving it. We're putting in at our expense the new outfall to the bay. So I think there's a lot more to it than just. And I think that if we didn't have the right to traverse the alley like everybody right now, I could see the argument that, well, you know, the city's giving something up. We're not asking the city. It's still a public street. It's wider. It's more usable. The maintenance people can make their way up and down it much better. So, I mean, I think it's an improvement of city property that we're not asking for title to. We're asking for the right to traverse it, which we already have, and we're willing to contribute significant money to upgrading the alley, maintaining it, and making it all part of a better fit on the property, rather than have two parcels that get developed and everybody has to constantly drive across it. Whereas under this setup, once you come in, you go upstairs and you drive around that circle, and the retail space on the other alley by the boardwalk. My mind just slipped on that, the name of it. But anyway, Boardwalk Way. Rather than have to traverse that alley at one level only, which would put all the traffic going across that alley, I think that's a worse solution to the thing. So we are not asking under any circumstances for the public to give up ownership of or the city to give up.
I was just asking that. Yeah, I was curious
Yeah, no,
about that
that's
first, but I do have, I'm not an advocate of joint public and private when the city does not really have control of, you know, of a lot or whatever. I'm just not. And I guess I have to keep going back to what you said, that as tight as things are. And also, I don't know, I just think that a community meeting is the first way to go.
Well, we're having the neighborhood meeting, and if it has to be expanded to a community meeting, we're fine with that. I think that the public input on it, you know, I think it's a pretty logical thing. We are not asking to give up the alley. We're asking to improve it at our expense, have the same use of it to a lesser extent than we do right now, and you know, go from
You
there.
answered my question.
All right.
I just wanted to, you know, get that clear in my mind, and I do understand that at this point, but that's not the only, that certainly is not my only issue, but I appreciate your
I
explanation.
understand, sure. All right.
I'm not really there yet and think that the city needs to spend a lot more time on it until we get our survey done. We're surveying the entire pass, and I would like to see actually who owns what and where. And that's been a big issue for quite a while with a lot of other things that are going on in the past. So I'm just for holding off until this has been completed.
Well, unfortunately, the process is that we put an application in, and you know, that's what we've done. We haven't tried to, you know, I mean, you know, we've been working on this for some time, and we tried to get with the commissioners and be sure that we had the opportunity to discuss. And in fact, I mean, if you recall, you were the primary one that just said you would have to.
I couldn't sell it.
Oh, to go to 8 stories, yeah. And we took a lot of this into consideration, and we looked at the economic benefit versus, you know, really, so to speak, trying to go our own way on it, and we decided that it didn't make sense to go to the 8-story. And I think it was an independent decision. I think that, you know, a lot of thought went into it after our meetings with y'all. And, you know, I mean, I think that we're, as I say, we're not asking for anything but the right that exists there right now, and that is to traverse the alley, except for the fact that we're looking to improve it, widen it, and take care of all the expenses of maintaining it. I don't see where that's anything but a win-win for the city, especially with additional income coming in from the parking.
How long will it take to get a survey done?
Survey's in the process right now.
I mean, but is that going to?
I don't know what the time frame is on.
Any idea?
Well, but what are the objectives of the survey? Are there things that they were specifically
I want
trying?
to know who owns what in the past. It's been an issue with a lot of different businesses and
Sidewalks.
pilings and
Sidewalks.
everything. And we need to know who owns what.
other than the ownership of this property?
The entire pass.
I don't know what impact that has, but, you know, there may be a reason that it's,
Partially, it's why the past looks like it does now. And we want to improve that or not have any, any worsening. It really doesn't have perhaps, well, it does have something to do with your project, because I was just curious about where the, the sidewalks are, for instance, in front of the proposed project, there's.
we pretty clearly defined them, and I think as we would do blow-ups of all this to show the commission, I think that, there's a reasonable reason for trying to move on with this thing. We've been taking the time to really study all these things and, and in places reverse course. I mean, we went from the idea of going to an 8-story to this doesn't work and there's reasonable objection to it, so we reversed that. I think that I don't know what impact other people's ownership would have on the potential of moving ahead with this, or trying to find.
I don't think it's just that. It's the fact that the other fact is I have a real issue with the traffic and the study done on traffic, and it's not just this project. It's the other two on the south end of town. You got the other two up here on the north end of town. How are all these going to play out throughout the whole city, and how is it going to impact everyone in the city? And nobody's ever come to us and said, this is what's going to happen. This is how many more, we've heard 13,000 trips a day just from the two up here. What is the 3 down at the south end? What is that going to add to it? So there's a lot of different things that come into play here as far as us vacating property or doing a public-private partnership or any of that.
Madam Mayor, if I may, if it is the board's pleasure, staff would encourage the board to consider at least letting us go through the neighborhood or the community meeting process, because through that process, we will be able to get more input and more feedback from your constituents and the local businesses, and then bring that information back to the board, and then you can make a more thorough and informed decision and hear what some of the opportunities, but also some of the pinch points that your constituents may have on the particular issue. The developer has put in an application to go through the process. There's nothing that binds the city to effectively require you to accept the proposal as designed right here, right now. However, we would encourage you to allow for the community meeting to occur. From that, we can schedule the discussion for a workshop exclusively just to this particular topic, and have a PowerPoint presentation, more information, so then you can actually have an opportunity to publicly notice it, another opportunity for the public to come out and give you some additional perspective. But staff at minimum is just requesting that you allow for us to go through the community meeting process, and then from that point bring you the findings of that particular meeting. So it doesn't bind you by any means in any way by allowing for us to at least go through that process.
I think that a community meeting, that's what I said, I think a community meeting is fine. I think that's the first place you need to go. I don't agree with, having our attorney, or any attorney, I guess, present us or anything with any kind of an agreement. I don't care what it is, until you've gotten the whole, feel of the community. And since you have already, you said that you had already sent out,
yeah, the notices.
Notices, okay. Then how would you then, or would you work with the city manager or with our Director Portal as far as sending out to a much larger, and how would we determine that? I mean, I certainly didn't get one. I know I'm not 200 feet probably, but everything that happens up there is going to happen to me.
Yeah, and you'd be affected totally.
Oh, yeah, totally. Because who commented, you, Mayor, or Nancy commented that everything that happens on Pelican Lane, okay, on Pelican Lane, 129th and 131st in East End, that's our only entrance and exit to get out of our streets, is right, I mean, I'm right on 129th.
Yeah, sure.
So all I'm saying is that we need that, much broader scope of mailing, and how will that be appreciated? And then would you have to change the current meeting that you already have set, or would you cancel that and then just redo another one, I guess is my questions. Because it's already set, I think.
Yeah, my recommendation would be to proceed forward with the meeting as scheduled, and then we would jump on the tail end of that meeting to, as far as communicating to the public, to inform them that this is a community-wide meeting specific to this particular project, and to utilize the communication tools that we have available at our disposal to inform folks. Then I think when we bring the information back to the board to report back what the comments were at those community meetings, that's another venue to allow for your constituents to give you additional perspectives on the project as we go through, in essence, the same presentation that will occur at the community meeting. So in essence, the public will get two opportunities to share insight with you concerning this particular project at the meeting that's hosted by the developer, and then the next meeting, which would be staff reporting back the comments that were articulated at the meeting and the developer sharing with you the same presentation. So in essence, you would be having two community meetings, but we will expand the notification to the residents throughout the community on the meeting that I believe is scheduled for the 6th. Yes, 6th of September.
Okay, that certainly is a fair, much fairer thing, because it certainly gives the people. Now, will you comply then, Jack, with this section 110-392 neighborhood information meeting? Jack has a copy of that, right? As far as
Yes.
making sure that that y'all, during your presentation to the public, that you, it does say may, but I would think it has to be, will discuss the project's development objectives, design philosophy, and proposed time scheduling.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As you
Thank
know,
you.
the whole thing is video recorded also.
Right, yeah, it says that down at the bottom, sure does. Yep. Okay.
How big is the room that you have that would,
Pardon me?
will the room you have accommodate?
It'll accommodate-
The city?
Come close to it, not quite going to accommodate what we have in here. Pretty close, though.
I
It's
mean, all the chairs?
It's big.
about this size.
Okay.
Flow to the bell tower. There's overflow to the bell tower.
Yeah.
It's just really important, this.
Oh, no,
this meeting, because-
listen, I think, I think, there, of course, there are going to be varying opinions about pro and con. But I think that, when you consider the fact that it's, as you've said, right now, the mud lot that's there is not, any real, anything great for anybody in the neighborhood, or it's not a great enhancement to John's Pass. And I think that, we are not trying to go beyond the scope of what's allowed to be developed there, but we're trying to do this in a way that, A, it solves, the additional parking solves the parking problem we have down there that everybody's been talking about for many years. It brings a class resort to the site, which, once again, the newer hotels, we have more going on here in Madeira Beach than most of the beaches have up and down the beach. And, the good and bad side of that is people are going to come. They're either going to stay in the junk old hotels that were Drew Ramsey developments back in the 70s and 80s that are now tired, quote, resorts that are suites. They're really condos. Or do we want to have we have more of a resort facility that's right in Johns Pass that allows us to bring in people that, have an alternative. Because, one of the reasons we thought about the park was, as you know, people come in town with their kids and they want to stay in a place that's big enough to accommodate a family. That's the best traffic you can bring in. And the other side of it is that, they take the kids to the beach the first day. The second day, they're burnt a little bit. By the third day, they're looking for something to do. And if we can accommodate the traffic and to the city with something that's really a quality product that allows them to bring to do something other than just go to the beach, which is what Johns Pass attempts to do. I think it's just a step in the right direction, and we feel like it's what we're proposing is potentially something that would be favorable to the city as well as income-wise to the city. And I'm not talking about real estate taxes, which everybody get, and sales taxes. We're talking about what we feel is a reasonable effort to try and give the city cause to feel like that we're not just asking, we don't want to own anything else than what we have, but we're just to make a better form of connection between the two properties. we felt like this was a reasonable gesture that we're willing to assist the property, or generate some finance for the city from. So I think it's, we thought of it as a win-win, and we'd appreciate the chance to go on with this thing and at least get the process going with the public and with the commission, the planning board. The planning board meets next month. We were hoping to get in there only to, at least from a planning standpoint, see that, you know, okay, how do the planners for the city and how does that board feel about it? The final decision is going to come back to you guys, whether whether it's a month or 2 months or 3 months from now. So that's why I would ask that, if this can be allowed to at least continue on, you still have the final say. I think that we'll be able to present a lot more information to you and the public over the next month or so, and hopefully it's something that we all feel good about. All right. Anything else?
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Mayor, I think along the same lines, we should give Linda some direction, because I think that 200 feet is not even close to enough and now at the stage we're at, it is, everybody in town is going to be affected somehow, some way impacted. So,
Well, just like,
can we go and have that changed to the
Sure.
entire city? Because it is impacting everybody, whether it's the people over here or the people
Right.
down there.
We can pull the addresses for that. You mean to do an actual mailing?
Whatever it says in the ordinance where it says 200 feet, they must notify somebody.
That's by mail.
Now they need to.
Change the
They need
ordinance.
to notify everyone in the city. So, because it's going to impact them one way or another.
And it certainly, the labels should be, if that's what you're talking about, then Linda simply gives the labels to the project plan, to Jack or to whoever mails those out. We don't do that. I mean, the city doesn't do any of that. They
Right.
simply
Right.
deal it
But
to,
everyone in the city should know what's going on.
okay, yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
If we were
And
to
change that.
Is there any more effective way at this, like, not even talking about time-wise this way, but is there any more effective way of getting something out in the next, days? Now, I think the newspaper is.
Can you use the microphone so people can hear you at home? Use the microphone so people can hear you at home.
Okay. What I was saying is there any more effective way to get something out? Like, we would do a TV ad, or it's going to be in the news, I know, because I already got a call about it, and I think the newspaper is probably here. So are they or not? Is anybody here representing the newspaper?
They're watching.
Watching, okay, all right. It's kind of like Big
cute.
Brother.
Yeah. We can, definitely, I'm sure there's going to be an article in the paper about it, but we can utilize the means that are available to us to put out some information as it relates to the surrounding properties. But correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like it's the board's desire to change the code provision above what is currently in there. Well, and that requires you to change the code. So there's a process that effectively we would have to go through to do that. I'm not aware, and Director Portell, I would defer to you of, I think you have some administrative latitude in the process,
Yes.
but I don't know of any other situation whereby any community is required to notify the entire community, because that's a cost that is if we do that now, that's a cost the city would effectively have to incur unless we pass those costs on to the developer as part of the changes in the code. So staff would have to do some research and bring back an item for you to discuss if you were to effectively look at changing that code language, and what legal would have to look at it as well.
Okay.
We need to change it, though.
It does say, section 110, 392, neighborhood information meeting, this is the code. It does say the city manager and her designee may require additional properties be issued a notice if deemed appropriate. So I would think that our request is certainly appropriate. I mean, I would think so, because everybody needs to be notified. And it does also say documentation of the mailed notice shall be provided to the city manager, for verification. But that's, I would think that that's sufficient. I mean, nothing needs to be changed.
Yes, and one of the reasons that the measurement is given is it helps define the affected parties. This is dealing with a zoning, it's a quasi-judicial issue, so people coming before you speaking are more defined as being affected by the development, depending on how far out you notice, certainly. And with the bigger development, more people are going to be noticed. 200 is really very small. Usually it's 3 for the initial measurement, and then you always have the option of expanding it out. But the whole city is a pretty big measure. Yeah.
Well, and that's why, I would encourage us, when we do the research, we have a land use attorney now that we're working with to provide us some insight and perspective, because like Director Portel says, it's a quasi-judicial proceeding, so you have to operate as judges, and there's a different burden that you have to, when making a decision, that you have to look at. So we can, if it's the board's desire to make modifications, we can certainly bring you some options to effectively do that. I just don't feel comfortable at this particular moment saying that we can notice the entire city with a mail notice. We can certainly put it out on every mechanism that we have at our disposal, but to require the developer to do that, I just want to make sure that we check with our, land use attorney, and then bring back some changes, some recommendations consistent with what the board's desires are. But we, for this meeting, will put out all the information that we can to inform the public that this meeting is occurring. And then also, we'll get it scheduled for a discussion here with the board. So worst case scenario, when people leave that meeting, we can provide them notification that this presentation is going to come back before the Board of Commissioners for discussion at this date, this time, this location. So they can, if there's standing room only, at least they know that it's not their only opportunity to convey their perspective on the development.
Okay, may I ask how many labels were given to, or how many labels did go out? How many people were notified of that 200? It was like 200. 200?
Microphone.
200.
Microphone.
Jack, you need the microphone.
Microphone.
There was about 200 that were the labels given to us, but some of them were duplicates. So if I had to guess, I would say reasonably maybe 100. Because don't forget, you have business owners.
That's right, it would be all of the past. It would be very few private parties, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Very
So
few.
it was probably, by the time you netted out the duplication, there was probably still at least 120, I would say. And you have to remember, it cost you probably $1 a piece to send out mail-outs. So to send out, 8,000 of them or so, or 6,000 of them is a pretty hefty thing to do. But you got to do. I think that there might be more effective means of getting people to the meeting outside of the. I agree, 200 feet's a little on the small side, but if you went to 500 from there, all you would take in is probably the rest of the people on 131st and the immediate area down by your street, and you might get across the road to a couple of those condo buildings. So, you have to look at the overall impact of everything.
And you're sending them to property owners, right, Jack?
Yes.
Not to just
No, it's
property owners, and so many property owners.
And that's how the code
Out
works.
of, out of state, they're all absentee, so many of them, okay.
Actually, there
I was
weren't
just
as
curious.
many absentee as I thought there would be.
Pardon?
There were not as many absentee as I thought there would be, looking through them. There were quite a few of them were local, and I think probably because a lot of them were all the local business owners, and they're up and down, the village, as well as the people in the back. And it went across. It's not a very big area, you're right, but it's just relatively small. There were just a ton of duplications, though, in it.
Well, I think we definitely need to change the ordinance to be more than 200 people. We can discuss that at another time. In the meantime, I think I'm fine with just getting it out to the people via news media and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm particularly gun shy because if everyone remembers, when the Houghton property first did their advertising, they didn't invite anybody because the closest people were the condos, and they were not within 200 feet. So they didn't invite anybody. So I think the city was really upset because they were not notified.
We can certainly look at some language and some changes to the code to effectuate the change and language that the board is looking to accomplish. And we can certainly get that before our land use attorney so we can make sure we meet whatever legal standard and make sure that we have the protections of law in the event that we make those changes. So. we'll bring that back to the board. But there is consensus from the board to proceed forward with the initial neighborhood meeting and then bringing the findings back to this board and effectively having another discussion on the topic consistent with what is shared at the neighborhood meeting, community meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Any further discussion from the board? It's now open for public comment.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive, Madeira Beach. You're talking about changing the ordinance or whatever. It sounds like Mrs. Weinstein came up with the reading. It says it's 200 feet unless deemed necessary to do more. So I don't see any changes that need to be made so that it encompasses everybody in the city. For example, the dive bar that was in here just not too long ago, to get approved, to have the dive bar have to send out mailings to the whole city would be just totally ludicrous when it just affects that little core area. So be careful what you ask for. It could be really, really painful to people, yourself and people coming in here. So it's already there. Ms. Weinstein read it in the code, 200 feet or as necessary. It affects everybody in the city. Could agree with that. It could affect the county. It could affect the state. Get a lot of people here. How far do you go? The thing that I was not clear on was how many city parking places available to public parking would there be? So 140 additional parking places available in Johns Pass that the city will get paid for.
The city was profit share for us. We were paying for the parking building, and then we have revenue sharing with us that.
Okay, so I think whatever can be worked out about the parking for Johns Pass, it's a plus, whatever it is. He says it's a partnership, and Ms. Weinstein disagreed with the having a partnership. You know, you have apartment buildings that are multi-story high where this floor is deeded to this individual, and this apartment is deeded to this individual, and this apartment is deeded to that individual. You know, you may look into something like that the parking areas are deeded to the city. The rest of it is part of the project. So there's a separation that you were talking about, Ms. Weinstein. That's just a couple of things that I thought of. And I think it would be a positive for the city, especially parking in Johns Pass. I think it would be a great addition. So thank you very much.
John Hendricks, 569 Normandy Road, Madeira Beach. Another developer starts running the gauntlet of the BOC in Madeira Beach. We're talking about parking issues. First, I'd like to touch on the project. You know, when these people come, they're going to be parking there. They're not going to be driving around. They're at a total destination spot. They've got Johns Pass, they've got the beach, they've got going out on boats and whatnot right there. They're not adding to our traffic issue once they're there. So it's a good thing for Madeira Beach, I think. My gosh, we just let a tour boat come in here, basically a cruise ship. That's a lot of traffic for Johns Pass Village and would have been better served at Gators or even the Holton property. If we're really concerned about traffic problems, I'd like to know if the BOC is addressing the traffic, the additional traffic that this city is going to get when they put the toll back on the causeway in Treasure Island. we need to be working with Treasure Island on remedying that problem, because if they put the toll back on that bridge, there's more traffic that's coming through Madeira Beach. And Madeira Beach isn't the traffic problem. It's everywhere else that's the traffic problem. So I think y'all are really, I'm sure you're trying to do a good job, but you're barking up the wrong tree on a lot of this, and you need to look at really what's going on here. This is a good project for Madeira Beach. I can't say that the boat coming into Madeira Beach was a good project. It's already jammed there, yet you put a cruise ship in there. Didn't make good sense, and I think you need to be a little more forward-thinking about this project, and also be talking to your state representatives and Treasure Island, and try to get that road taken over as a state road as an exit from a barrier island during emergencies. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Madam Mayor, if I may, our attorney has to depart from here at 5 o'clock, so we can continue on the meeting. I just wanted to just note that for the record that he has to leave at 5.
So he gets excused and we can't.
Yes.
Okay.
I told him under the condition we agree to behave ourselves, and so he said that's fine. You can leave us.
I'll be even shorter because my question involves the attorney. If the developer, or in this case, he's the developer, has met the legal requirement, and the city, that is you, want to expand it, I would think it could be done with a public notice, because he's already met the legal requirement. So a public notice would let all the other people, which should meet that requirement. And I think we're sitting here spending an awful lot of time not solving the problem. Ask your attorney what can be done and do it. In other words, put a notice in the paper. We have plenty of time to get a notice in the paper, or all the papers that are accessible to the readers here. And to me, that would cover getting the people, like Bob said, we could say it affects the people in Tampa, and God knows we don't have to mail the notice to everybody in Tampa. So just do what's logical, and what is your attorney can tell you is the legal aspect of it. Thank you.
Any more public comment? Public comment is now closed. Next item is the outflow maintenance. Mr. Marsicano.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners.
Thank you.
The intent of this memo and the intent of this item is to further discuss the outflows and the outflow maintenance. You really, outflow maintenance is not one single item, but we have an entire stormwater management plan, which includes the outflow maintenance. The past 8 years, the city has contracted out for the cleaning of all of our stormwater pipes and also our stormwater basins. The city of Madeira Beach is responsible for making sure all these pipes are in good condition, clean, and flowing properly. The city contracted out in 2013 to have all of our pipes in the entire city clean, jetted, and we also had those pipes cambered at that time. Since we have finished that project, we have continued a fairly steady cleaning of the outfalls, and the cleaning of the inlets is done daily pretty much on a frequent basis. The city staff is recommending in the 2019 budget to purchase a jetter and camera so that we may control our own destiny and cost. This will allow us to properly clean the pipes instead of relying on contracted folks. Currently, city staff have to go in the water with barnacle cleaning stuff and shovels, etc., to clean the outflows. It works okay, but it's not the proper stuff, and it's not the most time-efficient way to clean all of our stormwater pipes. The city will also be doing all the work once we have these, and we'll know the conditions because we have a camera, and we'll be able to hopefully jet past with a new jetter a potential non-problem or problem, such as just a clogged pipe at the moment of the incident. The city has to schedule all cleanings and camera use presently with a private company, which could take several days. We also have a tide element that we have to work around that follows us daily. And also with your outfalls, the Army Corps of Engineers is also requiring permitting of all of the stormwater outfalls in the state of Florida. That just started this year. With the outfall cleaning and our overall stormwater management program, it's another project that we start in 2019 fiscal year, cleaning of the pipes that will further bring the city into compliance with the Stormwater Act. I'd like to also go over the stormwater management program. You should have received this in your packet. The front page, stormwater management and control is performed in the city of Madeira Beach by the Public Works Department. Public Works Department consists of one supervisor, one mechanic, and 2 techs, and 2 seasonal folks. The employees of the Public Works Department report to myself, the director, and the staff organization chart for the Public Works Department is shown below, and I believe it is to date. Believe it or not, all these folks that you see here touch stormwater in one way or another, even the marina folks. The majority of the stormwater management, such as street sweeping, CDS unit cleaning, and stormwater inlet vacuuming, is now performed by the city. Before it was contracted out. The limited amount of equipment for maintenance and operated by the public work, or the limited amount of equipment that we do have is listed below, which shows an auger and chainsaws and typical things, trailers. It also includes our whirlwind street sweeper. The Public Works Division is responsible for stormwater management. The staff oversees street sweeping, cleaning the catch basins, the storm sewers, the drainage improvements, design and oversight of stormwater construction projects. We do that in coordination with Al Carrier, who is our city engineer, and also with Linda Portel. Discussions with supervisory staff indicate that staff perform services within the city include, we install rip-rapid outfalls, repair and or replace corroding stormwater pipes, maintain and repair seawalls at stormwater outlets. We clean the oysters from the outfall pipes. We maintain operation of the single stormwater pump station. We support operation and cleaning of the CDS units now instead of contracting that effort. We haul the vegetation from cleanup efforts in the city and beaches. We oversee and perform street sweeping program, maintain labels on stormwater structures that drain to the bay. If you don't see one on it, shoot me an email. Respond to stormwater service and emergency calls. We just had one last week over on Normandy, sorry. We had a boat sink, and it had 600 gallons of diesel fuel in it. The city operates and maintains 16 CDS units now. We had only had 4 in the city prior to the Boca Ciega project and Rex Place project. These CDS units within the city limits are there to remove the litter and sediment from the stormwater prior to the discharge to Boca Ciega Bay. 2 of the CDS units are located at the Public Works Yard. 2 are located along 140th Avenue. 3 are located in Johns Pass Village. 1 is located at the east end of 141st Avenue near the stormwater pump station. There's also 6 in the Boca Ciega neighborhood, and we also have 2 on Rex Place now. That means we are not discharging our stormwater from all those locations directly into Boca Ciega Bay. The city has also installed a new CDS box and outflow pipe along 140th Avenue in 2017, which I believe everyone can say now that we don't have the flooding problem at 140th like we used to. A concrete weir located in the vault with the CDS unit directs the flow of the stormwater to the CDS unit. If stormwater flow exceeds capacity of the CDS unit, excess stormwater flows over the weir and bypasses the unit. stormwater flow is introduced. Now, that's a tangentially, tangentially to the screening chamber. The screening chamber sits on the top. We get the trash and sediment through there, which creates a vortex motion. The continuous circular flow directs pollutants away from the screen towards the center of the unit to sink the sludge sump at the bottom of the unit. Simply, the CDS unit creates an internal whirlpool that draws pollutants to the center where they fall out to the bottom of the unit. Filtered stormwater flows through the screens of the CDS unit and discharges to the bay. The CDS units must be mechanically cleaned. That's what we do with the new VACCON truck to remove the collected pollutants. Then we have to fill out a sheet that is then turned into FDEP on a monthly basis because we received funds from Swift Mud and FDEP for the installation of these units. Water vacuum from the CDS units is discharged into the sanitary sewer system. The collected debris and sediment is hauled for disposal to an approved landfill. The new street sweeper the city purchased will be able to clean these boxes once again, saving the city money, not having to contract out the service. The city will also be able to clean them more frequently, and that's a big thing for me is we're able to get in there on our schedule and not somebody else's, so we'll be able to get it done. And this is also working toward being in compliance with the grants that we received from Swift Mud and FDEP for the stormwater system in Boca Ciega. Outfalls, which is a small part of it, it's one of the largest impacts to flooding within the city, is keeping stormwater outfall pipes open and clear of debris. Due to low elevations throughout the city, most of the outfall pipes have been installed at or below normal tide to allow for drainage from city streets. At high tide, water flows into the outfall pipes, depositing sediment and debris. When sediment builds up and or debris becomes lodged in the pipes, outfall capacity is reduced, resulting in upstream flooding. Once again, that's talking about that jetter, being able to keep that clean. The city is presently trying different valves to stop the high tide flooding in the streets in a couple of different areas throughout the city. We're still experimenting with those. We're also in the process of ordering plugs for these drains so that non-rain events, you'll see us go out there and plug the drain if I know it's going to be high tide. And then I have to sit there and monitor it. And when the tide recedes, we'll go ahead and take the plug out. But until something drastically changes soon, that's going to be probably the route we go in a non-rain event. In a rain event, it's a little bit tougher for us to do that because the hydraulic force of the water as it gets deeper on the road will press out through the pipe, even if the tide is above it most of the time. Another impact to stormwater outfall pipes is the constant growth of oysters and barnacles around the inside of the pipes. As the oysters multiply inside the pipes, the outfall capacity is reduced, diminishing the flow of water out of the pipes, resulting in upstream flooding in city streets. It's been said before that you'll hear folks say that barnacles do not grow in the dark. You'll hear me say all the time that our barnacles in Madeira Beach are overachievers. They grow in the dark. They grow from the inlet to the outlet all the way through. It's not so that they just grow where the sunlight hits. It doesn't happen. They're growing all the way through the pipes, and it's a problem. The city now has a regular schedule of cleaning the outfalls and is requesting in the 2019 budget for the purchase of a jetter trailer and a camera. This will reduce the cost of pipe cleaning and increase the frequency of pipe cleaning dramatically. I believe those items are listed in your budget. We do operate and maintain a stormwater pump station at the intersection of 141st Avenue and North Bayshore. The pump station has a large underground vault, very large, that stores stormwater from nearby streets. Once a certain depth of water in the vault reaches a specific level, a submersible pump turns on and pumps the water to the bay. A CDS unit is located upstream of the vault to help remove debris and sediment from entering the vault. Staff periodically cleans the vault to remove debris and sediment that collects inside the vault, once again documented. Annually, staff inspects the pumps for damage, inspects for loose fittings, and missing hardware. And during the annual inspection, staff tests the horn and light. We also have our mechanic out there regularly to make sure that everything is up and running. We have a very good neighbor that lives directly next door to it, and if there's anything wrong, he'll call me.
Director Marsicano, may I interrupt just a moment, please?
Sure.
Okay, well, I see that this does go on for like 12 pages, and I'm just wondering, I thought that we were given something that was very similar to this by you and by L Carrier, and y'all had some video or some PowerPoint with it that made it really understandable. Am I just dreaming that? Or am I just hoping that maybe that could happen? Because I am trying to follow, you know, what, and I'm thinking, gosh, this could really be meaningful if it had some pictures so that we could identify it and understand. I don't mean to interrupt, I mean, I did mean to interrupt, okay, before we went any further, but I was just curious if that could happen, or do I need to just hush?
Madam Mayor, if I may, we did have a conversation with the board specific to the check valves and how the check valves are operating throughout the city. This particular presentation looks at all the outfalls that we do have and the inlets. Unfortunately, we're still experiencing the same challenges that we communicated to the board a couple of months back with the backflow, or not backflow preventers, but the check valves. We're seeing copious amounts of debris and material and sediment, as well as the barnacles that are actually impeding the ability for water to exit the roadways. And then the other situation is having a community that is, for all intent and purpose, at sea level. It provides for additional challenges, especially when we have our summer afternoon showers. So I've asked the director to bring you up to speed on the overall stormwater maintenance strategy that the city has embarked upon and some of the tools that we need and will be acquiring to address some of the challenges we have here in the community. But we know that if we're getting the phone calls at City Hall, we anticipate that you're also receiving the same phone calls and emails. So this is basically an informational education and strategy discussion that staff is having to discuss how we're addressing some of the concerns that we are experiencing. Plus, you know, we have some challenges with, you know, you can believe it or not, whether climate change or sea level rise or all those different things, how that impacts a coastal community. So we're trying to do our best to address it. And so this is basically communicating to the board what staff is doing and the public. And you know, there's no panacea as far as a silver bullet to resolve all these issues, but we're trying to incrementally take steps to cure it. I've even had conversations with the department director on the check valves and that they're still under warranty. So at the event that we say that they may not be operating as originally anticipated, we still have the ability to get it resolved through the manufacturer. So this presentation was to address some of the concerns that we're hearing from the community and some of the emails that I know that the board or phone calls that the board members may be getting on, you know, our stormwater management strategy, et cetera.
Okay, I wasn't trying to, you know, take the importance of it down, okay? I understand the importance. I was just wondering if it could be done in a
Well, and that's basically kind of in a nutshell,
Okay.
kind of where we were going with this presentation.
Would you like me to continue?
Sorry, yeah, you were on page 4. Yep, I'm with you.
Well, I don't have
I'm
to go
with you.
through this whole thing. Y'all have seen it. We are an infected body. If you want to flip to page 6, you'll see that all of Madeira Beach is an affected water body. You want to go down to 1.2.2. That's the NPDES program, which your staff works very diligently and very hardly at maintaining. Skip to 7, down to the Code of Ordinances. We can skip through the maintenance of the management plan. We'll go to the Code of the Ordinances, which the municipal home rule powers grants to the legislative body of each municipality to the power and act legislative. You guys understand that? And the rest of the pages, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, go through our ordinances. The recommendations for program enhancements. The following recommendations are presented as opportunities for the city to enhance their existing stormwater management plan. The long-term performance of the stormwater infrastructure hinges on ongoing and regular maintenance and inspection. While the current city's public works staff is proactive with street sweeping and mowing, maintenance of stormwater structures is still primarily reactive to emergency repairs due to limited staffing and equipment. Construction activities and stormwater outfall cleaning typically takes 2 to 3 people. The public works staff has field people dedicated to this, and with proper equipment, will continue to do a better job. 1.42 goes through training. We do have to, according to the MPDS permit, have to have employees on staff that are have stormwater certification. You have 2 employees, myself and Kenny Zangara, and then the rest of your public works staff are all stormwater erosion and sedimentation control inspectors. We do keep stormwater infrastructure records as part of the stormwater master plan. In our inspections under 1.4.4, you can see that some of the things that are listed are the facility code or project, the inspection date. You can go through this. Public education, the city, believe it or not, is required by our new MPDES permit to establish a written plan for public education on fertilizer and pesticide usage and prevention of illicit discharges. The city must report to their efforts to the FDEP in their annual report. While the city participates in the Pinellas County Education Program, the city should make an effort to educate local citizens on their proper application of yard fertilizer and pesticides. A special flyer could be sent with any of the utility bills. We've been also talking with Kurt about getting the word out to you. The city has adopted the county's landscaping ordinance to address that. And the city is required to have the MPDES to strengthen legal authority to conduct inspections and monitoring, including legal authority to take legal action to eliminate an illicit discharge or connection. That's all I got.
And Madam Mayor, if I may, the NPDS is National Pollutant Discharge System. It's a program where the city is a co-permittee, and it's a program that is governed by FDP, but also the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. So there is a big push for local governments to really do everything in their power to effectively manage the pollutant discharge and stormwater discharge into our water bodies. And eventually you're going to see more restrictive policies and more requirements for locales to effectively look to almost, in essence, treat the water before it's discharged. So stormwater, pollutant discharge, those are big things that when staff comes before the board requesting funding for some of these things, there's ordinances that are in place, there's federal and state regulations and county regulations that are in place. And so from our standpoint, one of the things that we'll do is when we do bring those purchasing requests to the board, we'll cite exactly, you know, the rationale behind it, but also if there's a corresponding ordinance or a permit that we're required to do X, Y, and Z, so provide you the foundational background. So you can say, okay, this is why staff is requesting X, Y, and Z to effectively maintain the compliance with the regulatory agencies and good standing with the county. So in a nutshell, Director Marsicano was tasked with kind of talking holistically on what we're doing from the city standpoint. We can always try to do more and try to do better, but it is certainly challenging when you're dealing with Mother Nature, and informing our residents and public informational components are going to be a major strategy for the city moving forward as to when people fertilize their lawns, grass clippings, things that make its way into our drainage system and impact our discharge and our nutrient loads in our water bodies, et cetera. So there's a lot of things that we're looking at, but this was an opportunity to inform and educate and kind of put forth our strategy, and we're still looking to change it and modify it as things happen.
Does this like include the issue that I brought to you regarding the garbage trucks that have all that nasty water that they just dump in the street, and I've seen it go down the stormwater drain, and this happens daily, and it's very disheartening actually that it's even happening.
Absolutely. Anything that goes into our streets, we need to be conscientious of, and we need to try to put in some mechanisms in place. And the director can probably opine a little bit more.
I'd like to comment on that. Yes, we do have a letter right now that needs to go out to all the businesses in the area, because there should be no liquids in the trash.
I've seen it.
So it's not a City of Madeira Beach sanitation thing. Excuse me.
Excuse me?
It's not a City of Madeira Beach sanitation thing. We're trying to get a hold of it through proper education of the business owners and to get a letter out to all of these folks. So Megan in my office has prepared that letter. We've sent it over to Mr. Evans' office, and we are currently waiting to send that out to further reduce the fluids and liquids that you see in the trash, because it's kind of tough to monitor what they're putting in there.
Gosh,
Thank
I
you
think
very
that's
much.
good, Dave. That's good. But that's really true for everybody, though, isn't it? Not just businesses.
Well, it's the businesses that are the biggest offenders, and what you were referring to was the trash guys down in Johns Pass. So it's the businesses. The city of Treasure Island already has this ordinance into effect.
Oh.
So you will be seeing us bringing something else forward to you.
If Treasure Island has it in effect, they don't follow it, because I see them on a daily basis pulling that thing, and it just dumps it right in the street, goes right in the storm drain. I see it. I walk down there all the time. So and it's not just businesses. It's a lot of the condos that have. One in particular I see has like 8 dumpsters a day, 5 on one side and 3 on the other, and that's a lot of garbage. 8 dumpsters a day, even on Sunday.
How big is the complex?
It's a pretty big complex.
Can I make one comment,
But there's quite
Director?
a few big ones on there.
Yeah, that's true.
Can I make one more comment? On page 2, where you indicate maintain labels on stormwater structures that drain to bay. And I know that you've said just email you or whatever when we have a comment, but all the time when I'm walking, those are the same labels that I'm seeing that were originally blue, that had, and it said don't dump to bay or something like that. Okay, well, I just wonder if maybe the people that maintain those can just keep account of them, because every time I see one now, you can't even read it.
Those are maintained by me.
Okay, well, I'm telling you.
So, yeah, appreciate that.
Okay,
And
thanks, Dave.
we'll make sure that
Thanks.
we'll order those from the county,
Okay.
and we'll be sure to make sure that they are all shining down there at the pass.
Well, you know, if people don't, I mean, if they're just there, you know, and they don't have anything
Right.
on them, then.
I'm with you. I'll get them
Okay,
replaced.
thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Thanks.
I have a question. Right before the meeting, I had a citizen come up to me and ask about Bay Point. When would we be looking at issues of flooding there?
We're looking at issues of flooding on every street every day. For the issues at Bay Point, we're out to bid now for parsley. I can't say exactly when I think that Bay Point will be addressed. They're in a situation at the corner down there where they need a valve that will prevent the valve such as we have down in Boca Ciega, or one that works that keeps the tide water from coming in. So
So it's in the works, but we don't know when.
Long story short, it's, the road is at one end of the road, it's one height, at the other end of the road, it's the other height. At one side, it's one level, the other side, it's another level. So it's a pretty major project. It's not something that we can just go throw a couple pipes in and fix. So no, it's not going to happen next month.
Thank you.
Always worth asking.
Any more discussion from the board? Thank you, Dave. This is now, we're open for public comment on this item on the agenda. Not yet. There should be an on-off right in the front there. Help is coming.
No? Anybody?
Help is coming.
I got you.
Batteries.
We do have lightning rods, right? Before I touch anything metal.
Yeah, really.
This doesn't work.
It'll work if you get right into it.
Yeah, right up to it.
That's metal. I'm just kidding.
Is this okay to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. It's been a long afternoon. I appreciate it. This is the first time I've been in the chamber. That's why I asked about the lightning rods. Jay Blois, 708 Pruitt Drive. I've owned that property for over 12 years. I lived here permanently for 8. My area in front of my house happens to be one of the several identified as being more susceptible to flooding in the homes from the street, not from the canal side. And consequently, we've benefited, and I do want to take this opportunity to thank everybody here, and Dave in particular, to qualify to receive check valves in our drain system that help us control flood waters from the canal at high tide. At the same time, we have torrential rains, usually subtropical system. I'm doing okay with this, right? Okay. What happens, and I think most of you know this, but at any rate, when we have a subtropical system, high tides are held in, we get a lot of rain, it floods. We flood a lot in Pruitt Drive. The only thing that makes us a little different, perhaps, than the roads down in BOC is that Pruitt is not just a residential street, it's a thoroughfare. People go from 140th up to Bay Point and around in there. We get a lot of traffic, trucks, utility trucks, insensitive citizens who go through pretty fast, and we get floodwaters up into our house. All of the houses around me have flooded from the street, not the canals. And we think that perhaps something should be done to control that. The check valves went in May. They've never worked. Dave, I know your guys are out there Friday to seal up, to caulk up the space around the sleeve. That didn't work either. Today is the second day of a full moon cycle, and the street was flooded before I came over here. So I don't have an answer. Today I heard for the first time about the plugs, and I guess my question is, when would that be enacted as an interim control measure?
As soon as I can get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working through 2 different companies to receive those now. But yeah, as soon as we get them, we'll make them effective. And then at your particular spot, I finished the concrete there on Thursday night.
I saw it Friday, yeah.
Thursday night I finished it. And there is some space behind that wall, which is, I think, allowing water to get to that area behind there. So I'm not done there yet, okay? We're like I said, this is something that it's something we work out every day. So we're not done yet, but if it doesn't work, like I said, we're in a non-rain event, like such as one right here, and I know I'm not gonna get in trouble, I'm gonna block it up. And-
Okay.
And then,
One final word, if I may.
absolutely.
The problem isn't just water from the canal, it's water from the canal when we have rains. It's a combination of both, and we'll get
But
2 foot of water out in the street. 4 houses down the road is high and dry. And I just want to throw that out. My neighbors and I are there to give you as much information or to
Right.
work for you, if you will, to help get through this thing, okay?
The only other thing that might be effective there is a pump station. And I would have to talk to I'd have to talk to the engineer with a PE. I have a PE too, but mine's in practical experience. So I'll talk to the engineer and get his opinion of it. But I mean, I think that at this point, the only thing that's really gonna work is a stormwater station. But at that point, the stormwater station is going to act just as the one does on 141st. We're going to circulate the water once it gets to a certain point.
I get you.
But, you know, to answer your question, I'm far from done. Plugs are an option during non-rain events. And I'm going to try to find out where a proper, or even if it's possible, I could be completely wrong, and I can't put a pump station there of some sort. But, I mean, I have one on 141st, and it works during a rain event and, you know, tidal situations. But
Okay.
once it goes up to a certain point, we're just circulating water.
Okay, just for your information, before I moved here,
Your 3 minutes are up, by the way.
okay, just dialogue, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
That's okay.
Thank you, have a good evening, I hope you all brought umbrellas, I didn't.
I didn't either.
Jonathan, he's absolutely right about the traffic on Pruitt and where it intersects at 140th, because there's some of those people with those great big trucks, and they just come barreling down through there, and it just creates a wake. And you really need the police to sit down there for a while the next time that we have a tropical storm or something when 140th down into Pruitt does flood, because they don't pay any attention to the signs.
Yeah, we can look, we can have some targeted enforcement done by the sheriff's office, so I'll get with staff and we'll start addressing that. So we can do
Thank
some
you.
enforcement.
Robert. Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive, Madeira Beach. Just real quick, when you discuss Pruitt, 140th is working better, but when you have a combination like we have now on a high tide, you have those same vehicles that are going down Pruitt that are washing that water from 140th and South Bayshore all the way around in that area. I think they're way, but one of the things that I talked about many times before, and we talked about the waste, this is going to help Dave Marsicano. We need to start making people, residences, responsible for their garbage, their trash, their grass, their leaves. They just can't blow it out in the street. When they put their reclaimed plastic in there, most of them it's over the top. If a little bit of wind comes up, it just ends up in the street. So we need to send some information out to our residences and say, we need to help our city department help control some of the problems that we're having within the city in our stormwater system. Dave can't do it alone. He's got to have help from everybody to solve this issue. If we're not doing our part, he's never going to resolve the issue. So we need to get something out to the community that says, this is what we need to do to help so that we don't have these problems. And if we have repeat offenders, you know, we need to fine them. It's that plain and simple. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Public comment is now closed. Next, we have the city manager's evaluation matrix discussion. City manager?
Madam Mayor, members of the board, this item before you this afternoon is to select one of the two evaluation matrix that have been forwarded to you for review. I apologize that that wasn't included in the packet. I know in the agenda item, it does specify that two items or two matrix will be available for review. I've put those on the dais for you to look at and ultimately discuss. And then also, I wanted to set a date whereby the Board of Commissioners will actually do an evaluation on the performance of the manager and get that appropriately scheduled on a workshop for discussion. So at this time, staff is available to answer any questions. I have, again, given you some examples. The examples were consistent with evaluations that we created as part of the FCCMA Communications Committee, which is Florida City County Management Associations. And so this is the criteria and the categories that we collectively as peers thought were appropriate for the evaluation of an administrator. So what I would do is if the board says that you select A or B, I will then make it specific to this organization and clean up some things there and then send that out to you with a memorandum prior to the evaluation, and then we'll schedule it for public discussion. What my recommendation would be is once you do select the evaluation criteria and the date, then when the evaluation occurs, the actual submission of the evaluation will be submitted to HR directly, and I won't see the evaluations until until it's part of the record, the public record. So that's usually how I maintain a distant approach from the evaluation process. If any of the board members would like to meet with me prior to, that's afforded to you as well. But in most cases that I've had performance evaluations done, I've seen them when the actual agenda packet comes out, and then as part of the public discussion, that's when the board collectively talks about the evaluation of the manager. So these are two forms that the board can accept, or accept one of the two, reject both the two, or go with the traditional format that you've utilized in the past. But I think this is more specific to the performance and duties of a city administrator.
Can we take a week or 2 weeks or whatever to check this out? Because I just got this tonight.
Yeah, we can't make a decision.
That's fine. Yeah, we can certainly, you can have an opportunity to take that, and then at maybe the second meeting in September, I'll just ask for direction from the board. I'll put an item on there and just have you effectively select which evaluation tool you prefer to use, and then we can set the date for the evaluation as well.
We can go ahead and talk about that. I would just soon see it in January, because you're going to get a full commission who saw you do most of what happened during the year. Even if during the re-election process knock somebody out, you're going to still have most of the year. So if we do it prior to February 26th, it happens within the January-February timeframe, because then every year there's election that comes up, whether it's 1 and 2 or 3 and 4 in the like that.
Right.
That's just a suggestion I was throwing out there for y'all. Did you get that? Okay. Every year there's election in March. So whether you lose a person, gain a person, they're going to spend most of that year with the city manager for that time frame. So if we do it in January and then make it effective up on his hire date of February 26th, then the commission has basically been with him for most of a year. And then if you do it after that, then you might get somebody new in March, and they have no working knowledge of working with him or him, any city manager. So it kind of seems normal to do it prior to when you have everybody that's worked with him for most of a year.
Right.
At least 11 months.
No, that's
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, and that's how I've seen it done. It's usually 30 days before the anniversary date of the manager, or 30 days before an election period, because you don't want an incoming.
Well, you're kind of in both boats there.
Yeah. So, but certainly we can find that time, that workshop in that month, and then
Okay.
the board can just select which evaluation criteria that they'll like to utilize. And I've seen that when the board takes official action to adopt the evaluation matrix, it's just smoother because everybody knows exactly what the criteria is and what the evaluation is going to be based on. So I'll bring that back at our meeting in September.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
The floor is now open for public comment on this item. Floor is closed. Next item is the city clerk compensation discussion.
Madam Mayor, this item was requested by a member of the Board of Commissioners to discuss the compensation for the city clerk. The board previously conducted an evaluation on the city clerk where she exceeded and met standards as it relates to her performance evaluation. Based on the last discussion that we did have with the Board of Commissioners, there was a desire to allow for her to receive the 4% increase consistent with the other employees' pay raise that is incorporated in the fiscal year 2019 budget. Included in the memoranda, or included in the actual packet, is a survey of municipalities in Pinellas counties that talks about years in the position, salaries, duties, and population. At this particular moment, staff is requesting any additional direction from the Board of Commissioners. At this particular moment, we are only budgeting for the monies that would be afforded to the clerk on October 1, which is the 4% pay raise that all the other general and non-represented employees receive. In the event that the board wishes to do anything on and above that, that's direction the staff would need. The clerk has not received any retroactive compensation from her 6-month evaluation. So at this particular moment, the staff is moving forward with making sure that on October 1, the 4% consistent with the compensation that's put in the budget is afforded to the city clerk. So staff is requesting direction or comments from the board and is just bringing this item back based on the discussions that were had at previous
close.
meetings.
I was kind of under the impression that we took care of this. Was it? Can you hear me?
Can you hear?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That this was like a done deal. We took care of it during the budget process because that's where we were. We said we'd give her the 4% for everybody that got it in October, and we weren't doing anything else. So I'm not sure as why this even got brought back.
Our city clerk has worked really, really hard the last 6 months, and she was not given any type of compensation back in April when it was due. She had evaluations done by all of us, which were very high, and I felt like, she needed to be compensated in some way. At this time, what I'd like to propose is a $1,500 plus the 4% increase in October, making that all due her in October, as with the rest of the employees.
Well, the city clerk was, when she was interviewed, the contractor or whatever said that she would have a 6-month review. And the 6-month review was not to decide if she would get a raise, but whether or not she would be able to stay with our city. And she has done a great job, thank you, a very good job, as you said. However, a lot of people in this city are working hard, and we're not giving them anything extra. So I think we should follow our original plan.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Yes, I respect Commissioner Hodges' comments too, and also the fact that Clara we all know Clara has worked very diligently. With the additional information that we were given, I bet I'm screaming already. With the additional information that we were given on this packet, okay, I looked at some of the other communities that are probably, I guess, our size, okay, in population, and probably have the same realm of, or very close to the same realm of duties that our city clerk has. And I noticed that, for instance, Bel Air Beach, now that might be, it's just a comparison, okay? the city clerk's is making $63,000 there, and she's been there 11 years, okay? I'm looking at another one, say North Reddington, okay, who also has been their city clerk, years in position, 11 years in that position, and their city clerk is making $78,000. Reddington Beach, whoops, their city clerk has been there for 5 years and making 64. And St. Pete Beach, the city clerk has been in that position 7 years and making $74,000. So in light of all that, in light of looking at those to see how long the people have been in the positions, Clara, of course, has been with us 18 months now, right, Clara? No, not 18 months. How long?
Be a year, October 16th.
Okay, be a year. Okay, Clara, that's right. I put 10-1. Okay. And as of 10-1, 18, Clara will be making, okay, because you're making 75 now, right? We'll be making 78,000. So based on that kind of, well, I guess based on my analysis, I do feel that Clara's doing an excellent job, but I do think that everyone kind of has, everyone on the city staff, or most people, do have an uphill climb. I mean, everybody is kind of just really buckling down to, really be part of what we want our city employees to be. So I guess I'm fine with leaving it at 10-1.
And when you look at all the matrix here, it looks like her salary is within the range of all the other clerks.
Yes, definitely. That's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
With all the recent committees that were formed over the last year or so, Clara's been putting in long weekends, not just 8 hours a day. She's been working to midnight. She's been working the Sundays and Saturdays. And I'm sure the city manager can contest to that because he's seen her working here. And I just feel like she needs to be compensated. I mean, she spends probably 100 hours a week here. And with all the degrees that she has and the work that she's done, keeping things up to date, she's entitled to some kind of compensation. The $1,500 would be the compensation from the time that she started to now, and then just go on into October 1st with the 4% like the rest of the employees. I think that's only fair. And
Madam Mayor, for the record, I can tell you that I've had the opportunity to work with many city clerks. This particular city clerk is definitely not afraid of work. She is here copious amounts of time. She never complains about being here till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So she's been an asset to me as the city manager, and being able to work with somebody that's a professional clerk is certainly refreshing. So she is definitely one of the better clerks that I've had the opportunity to serve alongside of. So we're fortunate to have her. Whatever the board's pleasure is, of course, staff would adhere to that, but we're very fortunate to have her, and look forward to continue working with her to keep the progress. But she has definitely, like Commissioner Hodges did say, she has put in a lot of time and effort into transforming some of the things that we're tackling as an organization. So she's well versed, and she's a valuable part of the leadership team here in the city.
Any more discussion from the board? It's now open for public comment on this item.
Test. Hey, it works. Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore. Because of my involvement in the recall and some of the documents and things that we've had to, that as an organization we had to deal with, Ms. Van Blargen was nothing but absolutely professional in all her dealings with us. And every time I've talked with her, it's been absolute first class. I can understand that possibly, or probably a very good part of her time is trying to catch up for past years just to try to get things back up to speed. And as many meetings as you have in the planning board and the charter commission and all this, she spends a heck of a lot of time getting your information. If she's making, just for example, $20 an hour, with the hours that she's putting in, she's probably only making $10 an hour instead. So I think the $1,500 bonus for her work to support you people up there, which she does without question, and support the city manager, is a very minor thank you for the hard work that she has put in. So I do appreciate what she's done, and I hope that you show your appreciation for what the hard work that she's put in and go with Mrs. Hodges' bonus. Thank you.
I'll try this. Jay Blois, 708 Pruitt Drive. Didn't plan on doing this. I don't know the city clerk, and I did not pick up on what her salary is currently. But I had a 30-plus year career in human resource and labor relations management with 3 Fortune 100 companies. I know compensation. And a couple factors I just want to share with you that is loosely being discussed here. You have market value, just like you do when you have a home or a house. What you sell it for depends on what everybody else is selling it for, your neighborhood. Companies will also structure their ranges of their compensation to be increased annually, again, depending on market flow. And lastly, for you to consider maybe more seriously than everything else, considering I'm hearing outstanding performance, we have a real low unemployment rate right now. It is an applicant's market. And I don't think the city wants to go out and have to recruit again. So if you take those consideration, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
John Hendricks, 569 Normandy Road. Obviously, we've been on opposite sides of the fence on a lot that has gone on in Madeira Beach. I wasn't for getting rid of our last city manager and city clerk. I thought those people did good jobs. But we're past this. And I was reluctant to see you folks hire a new city manager and a new city clerk. I have to say, Clara and Jonathan have done an exemplary job. They have done it without bias. They are both true professionals, and Madeira Beach is very lucky to have them. We need to be sure we retain them. Jonathan, you know, I know you buy me breakfast every morning to say all this, but really, we're really lucky. And Clara does work until 1 o'clock in the morning. You look at the Charter Review Committee, the Budget Committee, the Civil Service Board, the Bid Review Committee. Then you look at all that took place during the recall and all she was trying to keep up with on that. Honestly, I don't see how she did it. And you really need to take care of this lady. She's done an exemplary job, and I think Madeira Beach needs to move forward with both Clara and Jonathan. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
That's right, we're all captured here, aren't we? I don't admire Me Tooers. I like to think,
Can you state your name and address? I know we
Right.
know it, but.
Yeah, I've almost forgotten it. Reese Noren, 363 Medallion, your closest neighbor. My philosophy on labor, and I've been fortunate enough to have a few thousand people working for me at a time, is if you've got a good employee, you reward them or you lose them. So I think from all I've heard and for what little experience I've had working with her, she is an outstanding employee, and I support listening to her boss. And if he's recommending it, that's usually how you go to determine those people you don't work with close to you. If a boss recommends it, it ought to be done. Thanks. See, I'm getting faster.
Anybody else wish to speak? Public comment is now closed.
Madam Mayor, just as a point of clarification, Commissioner Hodges, is this a $1,500 one-time lump sum, or is this in addition to the 4%, just for clarification?
It would be the 1,500,000, listen here. Hey, Claire. The 15,000, excuse me, 1,500, still saying it wrong, plus in October, she would get the 4%. So the 1,500 and the 4%, both in October.
Okay.
And it's not a bonus.
It's not a bonus?
No, we can't give bonuses.
Well, what is it?
It's her compensation, and it would be the amount of money that I feel like she should have received back in April, which would have been 4% of would be 3,000 at 4%. But since it was only a 6-month evaluation, we went ahead and knocked it down to half of that, which is about 45%, which would give her about 1,500. So that would be the amount given. Am I saying this right?
It's effectively a retro.
Okay.
It's a retro pay, about amount of about $1,500
Right.
for that time frame.
And then she turned around and get 4%
Right.
in October.
No, I'm still at the 4% we talked about in the budget meeting.
And yes, yes, upon doing the analysis that I did, and I definitely feel that Clara is an exemplary employee. I've said that to her. I have not worked with Clara, but for 3 months, actually. About that. As a commissioner, 5 months. As a commissioner, but I feel that in light of everything, I think that as I've said before, I think that we've had many exemplary employees who have really had to bring us up the hill. And I think that Clara certainly is one of them, and she might be the best one, and I truly believe that. But I do think that October 1 is coming up, and it should be October the 1st with a 4% increase, bringing Clara to $78,000. Thank you.
Well, based on what you just said, Debbie, we should, or I guess what Nancy said, then Jonathan should get a $1,500 retro. Because he's also, if he's here when she's here, he's working just as hard as she is.
Well, I think other employees do too.
Exactly.
I've gotten emails from other staff people, that's, if it's, I guess it is, 11 o'clock at night or midnight or something like that. So certainly I think that we have a wonderful, a certain dedication, from a lot of employees. And I hope that we will, certainly with good faith and good honesty, we will meet our obligations. But I think that that's fair.
And I don't want to take anything away from you, Clara. I just said you're doing a fabulous, wonderful job.
I just appreciate all y'all. I
you're
appreciate
sweet.
being here.
You're sweet.
And I appreciate your
But I don't
comment.
want to do injustice to other employees as well, who who may deserve the same thing. So, do we have a consensus? I think so. Do we have a consensus?
I think so.
Okay.
All right, we will proceed forward as originally discussed. Madam Mayor, members of the board, the last item on the workshop agenda is the general election ballot communications plan. And we have our public information specialist who will be providing a presentation on the strategy the city will deploy to inform the residents of the charter amendments that will be before them on November 6th. Mr. President.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Evans, thank you. For the record, my name is Kurt Pricer. I am the Public Information Specialist for the City of Madeira Beach. In the effort for expediency this afternoon due to the length of the meeting and the weather out there, I'll see if I can get this in under 2 minutes. Without taking a breath. On Tuesday, November 6th, the voters will go to the polls to elect their representatives in city, county, state, and federal levels of government, as you well know. In Madeira Beach, we will also be asking voters to add their voice to several proposed changes to the city's charter. Staff has developed a communications plan to inform and educate the community with regards to the upcoming election on the 6th and the 10 proposed charter amendments. That communications plan basically has two goals. That is, make sure every eligible voter is made aware of their opportunity to voice their opinion on the proposed changes to the document that provides the foundation upon which their local government operates, and also to make sure the voters have accurate, easy to understand information upon which to make their decisions when going to the polls. The communications plan calls for a message of voting opportunity to be delivered through numerous channels. Those channels include media releases, website postings, and there will be a specific page on the existing website, not the new website yet, but we're developing. That probably won't be going live until after we get through November 6th. But there, as a matter of fact, I talked with network people just a little while ago. They've now put framework together for a separate page. All it needs to do is be populated with information. I'm working very closely with Clara and the clerk's office to be able to put accurate information together for that. Social media postings will go right along with everything that goes up on the website. We will develop a series of frequently asked questions and the answers. Editorial written by the city manager to appear in the Beach Beacon. Media interviews, which will be supplied with talking points that work with the clerk and with the city manager, putting together a series of talking points so we make sure everybody stays on the same page, no matter how many media outlets we talk to. The possibility of door hangers is out there as well, so we do foot traffic out there through the community, and direct mailing also, including a sample ballot in both English and Spanish for the Spanish-speaking people in the community as well. This is, in my experience, the full breadth of communications vehicles that we should use. There's always opportunities, of course, for word of mouth, particularly through yourselves when you're out talking to your constituents in the community. And obviously we would make the series of talking points and FAQs available to you as well. Once again, the goal, everybody staying on the same page. The communications plan will be put into motion mid-September, just within the next couple of weeks, and will continue all the way through November 6th. I think that's just under 2 minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
There's this one statement here, I can't read it. What happens if the voters reject a proposed change to the charter? It doesn't say it here, but they can be put on the March ballot, can they not?
Actually, I'll defer to the clerk on that one.
If there's any that doesn't pass by the voters, of course, they don't come in effect at that time, but then it would be brought back to you all if you want to rework it, or, you know, it'll be your decision.
We'll have another opportunity. Yeah.
It wouldn't be a guarantee that they would be on the March, but
Right.
it would, you know, come back to you.
Okay.
I have a question. Would it maybe be feasible, would it be helpful, or do you think it wouldn't be helpful if the next 2 listening tours that Jonathan has assisted me on for September, the next 2 for September and October, if perhaps you could be with us on this listening tour at the fire department and be further helpful to the citizens that participate or that come to that meeting.
Madam Commissioner, thank you for reminding me. You and I had actually chatted about this. I completely forgot to put it in here. I appreciate you serving up that softball for me. I appreciate that. Yes, we definitely will be joining you, the city manager and myself, and Clara, if she's available, to answer any subject matter questions, expert questions for the listening tours, and look forward to doing it. We'll be promoting that heavily.
Okay, I think that would be very good.
Absolutely.
How do you think that sounds, Clara?
That sounds good. And to add to that, for the March ballot, I do want to say that I believe it's the second Friday of January when the final ballot language has to be to the supervisor's election, that I have to get it there, which means, we still have time to do our ordinance, first reading, second, hearing, and work with the charter review committee and all workshop it again. So we're on a tight line, just to let you know. Because we still have to have it go, all those questions go to the charter review committee, rework them, however they're doing them, workshop it with the commission, do an ordinance, first, second reading, the public hearing, and then get that ballot language to the elections office. So.
And Clara, when do you, you might not know this now, but when you anticipate having your first, okay, it's not with regards to these 10, okay, but it just dawned on me. With regards to the next 10, okay, that you're talking about, when will you open that up for discussion with the charter committee as to any changes, any revisions, anything like that, to the wording or to any of those things that might want to be addressed?
For the first 10 for November?
No, not for November.
Oh, for the one,
Right.
They're already in the works of setting meetings and going over all of that.
Okay.
They're already immediately taking action on those.
Okay.
So we're scheduling a meeting tomorrow where they'll come back, and plus they're going to first meet jointly with the Civil Service Commission and do that section.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be some work, and then they're going to move forward with all those questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think this sounds like a good plan, having all this. And how, go back, because I probably missed it or I didn't hear it from the rain or whatever. What kind of communication for the citizens that do not use the computer? How are you going to pass along the information to?
Well, that's going to be done through media releases through our media partners, so we'll certainly be making information available there. We also will be doing the editorial by the city manager, advocating for people to go and vote on November 6th. Media interviews as well. Door hangers is a possibility. The city manager and I have chatted about that a bit, just working out the logistics of how we would go about doing door hangers. And direct mailing is also a possibility also, sending stuff out.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may, what we would like to do, working with the city clerk's office, is provide a letter with a sample ballot that will go to the registered voters in our community in advance of them receiving the actual ballot, informing them about the website and the layperson's interpretation of the ballot initiatives. So they have some opportunities to be informed. So we would look to get something out, I would say, by the middle part of September at the latest, to get in the mailboxes before those sample ballot or the actual ballots get to folks, because we anticipate when someone receives a ballot within probably 48 hours, they'll complete it and send it back. So we want to put the information piece in front of them before that occurs. Also, probably as early as tomorrow, you'll start seeing some signage, some marquee on our marquee about, hey, Madeira Beach is on the ballot, vote on the charter amendments. We are looking at getting some of the snipe signs and some of the campaign signs to inform folks that we are in the ballot, definitely vote on the charter amendments, etc. So we're going to be doing a all-out communication blitz. So every opportunity we have available to us to inform folks, we're going to utilize that. You know, I'm going to be writing an item for the manager's report, those types of things. So we're going to track everything that we do, because we want to see if by doing some of these initiatives, if it effectuates some increase in voter turnout, because that's some good things that we can look for additional communication strategy or marketing strategies on other issues throughout the city. So we're going to be tracking it and then reporting back, you know, if we saw voter turnout go up by 10 or 15% and that the, you know, return rate, I guess, of folks completing the entire ballot was X. So we're going to be providing you some real data and information after we're concluded with this, but we will be tracking our strategy, and we can easily provide you some reports as part of staff reports at a regular board meeting on some of the things that we're doing.
Okay. Any more discussion? No? All right, wait.
I think it sounds good.
Public comment's not open.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive. All this public information and output that you're putting in, in this whole process, you have put the cart before the horse. This information on all these amendments that you were talking about and that you were approving should have been put in the paper months ago so that people could understand what you were doing and come up and speak about the things that you voted for on that ordinance. What you've done here is just criminal in my mind. Also, the door hangers, is that going to be totally biased people, or are they going to be trying to sell it? How is that going to work?
They're basically just going to put door hangers that say, go out and vote. That's basically what the door hangers are going to say.
Okay. Also, when there's decisions made in the Supreme Court, I heard the gentleman talk about having, you talk about the amendments. On all these amendments, you have not put a reason why except for the number one, which was the he, she, it, him, or whatever, that one. The other ones, you do not have a reason why you need these amendments, and that's terrible. So, again, like on the Supreme Court, you have a vote 6-3 or whatever the case may be. There's always a dissenting argument. So, the three up here, and there's one that I can see right now, it's a 3-1, is everybody going to be able to communicate their feelings as far as the amendments on the website? Or is it going to be just a shotgun, you got to do it? You're not understanding? Okay. It's pretty simple. Not everybody agrees with you three. And that needs to be able to be put out in the public as well, that there's a dissenting opinion to what's going on here. Thank you.
As I've said, oh yeah, I'm still Reese Norton, 363 Medallion, your closest neighbor. I said at the meeting that this first came up at that I do think the cart is before the horse, in that I would like to have seen information and education on the items on the recall, or I've been here too long. But the information is already behind. You're authorized to put the topics on the ballot that are already on the ballot, and then the information is going to flow, trickle, maybe, maybe not, I don't know. I've been looking for the announcements that we're going to have some information sessions, and I have difficulty navigating our website. I have difficulty finding when the agenda is published. Is that a 24-hour notice that's required? Because I looked for the agenda for these meetings on Sunday and Monday and could not find them either on the bulletin board, which I'm so glad to see. I think the bulletin board's the greatest thing I've seen happen in the last 5 years. So getting information, I'm sure you all sitting there think the information is put out because you meet the letter of the law. And I'm sure you do meet the letter of the law on the notice of meetings. However, the letter of the law is not very good in our case. We do not have good communications in our community relative to other places that I've been. I could be rude and say our communications thus far have sucked, but I'm so glad to see that we brought somebody in to help alleviate that problem. I think that's a credit to you for bringing him in, and I hope that it makes communications better in our community. Yeah, I don't always agree with I didn't agree with the other administrations either. That isn't the important part. The important part is we all have a right to express an opinion, and that's the part that is missing in our communications. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Meeting is now adjourned at 6:16.